Hello and welcome to Fierce Feedback.
Hello.
Hi, Liz McCurry.
Hi, Will Gosden.
Fierce Feedback, if you haven't already heard, this is episode 3. This is a show where two friends bring together some forgotten things, games, gems, whatever they be, from the past that may be more familiar to us than others. And we make a case for why they should be remembered. And then you give us a little vote on a Twitter poll and tell us what you think was best.
Yep.
We have a few additional features during the telling of each of our games this week. We will be telling one lie.
One lie, so false feedback.
Yep, in which you have to guess why I'm lying to you.
Yep.
Or how I'm lying to you.
Okay. I'm not very good at lying now. I'll have to do my best game face.
Well, nor was I. Last episode, you guessed it right away.
So Will and I will bring one piece of pop culture this week, a video game that is super, means something to us in some way.
I'm going to say this right now. Mine will mean nothing to most humans.
Human? So it's a game for cats?
No, it's not. No, that would be great, though, if I pulled that out of the bag. No, it's just a very unfamiliar game, I think, and very niche to my childhood. But I'm going to tell you why I love it.
You see, mine's very well known this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, mine's very well known. So
is it Call of Duty?
You do not want to see me playing Call of Duty.
Is it Call of Duty 2?
I
could go on.
Can't play first-person shooters. So spoiler that there's probably going to be no first-person shooters on my side in this podcast.
Yeah, I can't think of any that I'm... no, there's one that I'm going to bring. Yeah.
I get too panicked and I just spray bullets everywhere.
Right.
And just mainly look at the sky because...
Happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, I find I have to switch the inverti mode on.
Oh.
Yeah. So if I press up, I actually look up. Why would anyone want it any other way?
Well, I mean, if that's the way you play, that's fine for you.
Yeah. I've tried to
and
play
good luck to you, sir.
I've tried to play it the other way and it's just carnage. The wrong kind of carnage.
So, forgotten feedback. What did we screw up in the last episode that the lovely people out there corrected us on this?
Yep, so you can send any forgotten feedback to us at firstfeedback@gmail.com. So anything we may have missed or anything that's special to you about the games we mentioned, just get in touch. So last week we did Simpsons, Bart versus the Space... I was going to say Marines, but it's mutants.
Imagine that. A weird Warhammer 40k tie-in, Bart versus the Space Marines.
Stranger things have happened. And Wet.
Yeah.
So what did we forget, Will? On my side, I forgot to actually mention who Behaviour Interactive, the developers of Wet, are.
Oh, okay.
So they're a Canadian video game developer.
Did you get a letter from someone who worked at Behaviour Interactive?
No,
give us some credit, please.
They didn't work there, but I think it's because I'd done it previously.
What does that mean?
Well, I'd done it in the first podcast that was like, here are these studios.
Oh, so you'd set a precedent where you would talk about...
instantly broke.
So really, they're just checking on you maintaining the format as opposed to... This is good, because I didn't bother.
Look, I'm sorry, sometimes I forget.
Yep.
But it's important. It's important. So shout out to Behaviour Interactive. So, they're a Canadian video game developer and they are famous for many things, but Fallout Shelter is one of their recents.
Yeah.
And between 2000 and 2010, they were known as Artificial Mind and Movement.
Oh.
Did you get any...
Yeah, I also did the same thing. I forgot to give credit to the game designer, which was a guy called Gary Kitchen.
Oh.
And I also screwed up. I talked about the parallel with They Live. I think I said it was 1987. It was actually 1988. So I screwed that up.
Good,
I always remember 87 a lot because it's the year of Predator.
Great
and
film.
I think... No, I'm going to get that wrong as well. I'm not going to say the other one. And I also forgot, someone reminded me there's a nice little mechanic in it where you can do the prank phone calls to Mo. So there's the bar and there's a phone box outside. If you jump up on it and press a button, he calls and does the,
That's cool. I'm glad that they included that.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Is a bell ringing? Anyway, so forgotten feedback. Sorry about that. Thanks for your feedback. Hopefully we'll get some more people remembering our games, but definitely not this week, based on the one that I'm bringing. But whose turn is it to go first?
It's my turn.
It's your turn.
It's my turn this week.
Liz, regale me with your pick of the week.
I'm very excited about this. This is actually one of my favourite games.
Oh.
So I'm actually very excited to talk about it.
Okay.
To say it's my favourite game, I probably don't know as much about it as I should.
Okay.
But anyway.
Reveal it. Liz is reaching into her bag and pulling out...
The 2005 Quantic Dream Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, of course.
Yeah?
I mean, I'm aware of it, but I never played it.
Great game.
This is
also known
David
as,
Cage, right?
Yes. Also known as the Indigo Prophecy in North America.
Yes.
I'll get onto why a little bit later. But yeah, this is Fahrenheit.
Because they can spell Fahrenheit.
Sometimes I struggle. Now, I remember the time when this came out and this advert was everywhere. So if you've seen the front cover of Fahrenheit, it's like got a guy whose hands are covered in blood and he's dropping a knife and there's like loads of graffiti behind him. It was these posters
Written in
everywhere.
blood, by the way, the graffiti behind him.
That says things like destiny, chaos, random killings, paranoia,
Cursed.
and murder. What does that say?
That
Lost
says
shit?
Lost Life.
Oh, Lost Life. Yeah, so it is great. So I'm going to read the blurb on the back of the box, like I like to do. So, guilt is a chilling feeling. In the men's room of a diner, a mysterious murder takes place. The murderer is an ordinary man. He has no idea who his victim is, but this isn't an isolated incident. All over New York, regular people are killing total strangers. The only link between the killings is that they all show the same ritual patterns.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it's...
Rated 15.
Great. Yeah, they had to drop the rating. I'll get onto all that stuff later.
Okay.
So my notes.
Talk to me.
So, released in Europe in 2005. That makes it very old. Like me. So it was developed by Quantic Dream, who are a French video game developer based in Paris.
Ouais.
In Paris. You can speak French, can't you?
Ah, oui, bien sûr.
Marvellous. You can pronounce some of the names for me so I don't offend anyone a little bit later.
David Cage. There you go.
His
You
last
are
name.
welcome.
His last name isn't really Cage, it's a pseudonym.
Oh,
And
he's
really
like a wrestler.
Yeah.
You mean Hulk Hogan? His first name isn't really Hulk.
Yeah, it is.
Oh. Was he Kristen Hulk?
I name you Hulk.
In the name of the Father.
Yeah.
You're not sure, are you?
I know. You can see the cogs turning in my head, aren't you?
Liz is just like drifting
I've
away
never
like,
thought of
wait a
this.
minute.
My childhood is broken.
Is Hulk Hogan really called Hulk?
Is Hulk Hogan really real? Is he a natural blonde?
Don't know. Is Crocodile Dundee really called Crocodile? All these questions and more in next week's Forgotten Feedback.
I really hope that Crocodile Dundee's first name is Crocodile. I mean, Ace Ventura's first name was really Ace.
That's true, in both senses of the word.
So, Quantic Dream. I am a huge fan of Quantic Dream's work.
Okay.
Like, ridiculously so. So they went on to do Heavy Rain. Have you played Heavy Rain?
No, I might have played like a demo or something. I remember it, but I didn't have a PS3 at the time.
It was great. It was one of the few games that when I put it on, I played it through to completion in one sitting.
Oh, nice.
I played it through the night and finished it and
Cool.
loved every minute of it. It was known at a time, there was a bit of a meme going around. Would it be a meme? I don't know.
It's got a bit of a reputation in these games, right?
Yeah, there was a meme going around that was like, press X to Jason.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
Rings a bell, but I don't know why.
So at the beginning of the game, it's a great game. Love it. I got like the special edition that came with all like the origami. Anyway,
Okay.
I'm not talking about that game. But at the beginning of it, your child got knocked over
Knocked over.
by a car.
Okay. That's
And
a bit
not
nice.
just bustled over in the
sorry,
street.
mate.
If I'm remembering it correctly. And you could press X to shout his name because you were trying to find him as he was running away. So you would press X and he'd be like, Jason.
Right.
But the scene in which you pick up your child when they've been run over to console them.
Does that always happen whether you press Jason or not? Whether you press X to Jason or not?
Well, you can scream it into his face when you pick him up.
Oh, so it's still
no,
on.
Cut off. Yeah, it's still on. So there was just this meme going around. Would it be a meme? I don't know. I'm not down with the kids.
It's an internet comedic observation.
Yeah, and it never happened to me. But when I heard it had happened to my friends, I felt bad, but I just laughed because it's a really like heart.
Wait,
warming
when you
moment.
say it had happened, do you mean they'd seen it all the game, or their kid had been knocked over by a car?
I choked in disbelief then. That they'd pressed X to Jason.
Okay.
Their children are fine.
Good.
So I played that through in one sitting. They also did Beyond, which I actually haven't played.
Two Souls?
Yes, but I haven't played that one, I must say.
All I know about that is research I've done on the character controller, and also a
It's
meme.
got Willem in it.
It's got also the meme of Beyonce Two Souls.
I've not seen that.
It's great.
I've not seen that, but that is amazing. It also has Willem Dafoe in it, our favourite.
I mean, yeah, our favourite man of all time.
And also they did Detroit Become Human, which was my game of last year. It was my game of 2018.
I need to play that. I played the demo and absolutely loved it. I thought it was wonderful.
You can borrow my copy. Yes. It is
What have you got it on?
Good. PS4. Yes. Woo! Yeah, it was my game of last year. Absolutely loved it.
Cool,
to
man.
death. Anyway, I'm not talking about that. Oh, one last thing. Mm-hmm. They also did something called, in 2000, called the Nomad Soul. Have you heard?
Yeah, that rings a bell.
So this was good old Mr. Cage at it again. So the Nomad Soul.
Listen. David Cage.
David Cage.
Actually, is he French? He's not French, is he?
I think so.
Is he?
Yeah, because there's a tutorial level in Fahrenheit.
Wait, we actually never got to the point where you said, wait, what? I don't know why that makes sense. But we never settled what his actual name is.
David Cage.
No, no, because you said earlier, his name's not really Cage. And then I went off on one about Hulk Hogan, and we never got back to it. What's his real name?
I can't remember.
Oh.
It was very complicated, if you're not French. It was a very beautiful name, I'm sure.
Is his real name David?
Yes,
Okay.
it's his surname that's different.
Lafayette.
Lafayette.
We'll call him David Lafayette. Or Cage.
Like Cage. So the Nomad Soul was released for Dreamcast in 2000.
Yes, my favourite.
And the music...
I love the Dreamcast.
The music for it was by David Bowie and Reeves Gabrels, the guitarist from The Cure. Like what?
I need a minute.
On earth?
I need a minute.
The music for
God.
the music for Fahrenheit is arguably better. Like, wait till I get to that.
Okay.
So at the beginning, there's a tutorial in which David Cage is like
Narrating it.
narrating, and he is there. There's like a mocap of him and his like model,
His 3D effigy.
and he's like, "Hello, I'm David Cage. I am the director of this, and this is how you control it. This is how you do cameras."
That is bold.
It was great.
Yeah, it's bold though, right? That
And
is
it
just like,
stands
it's
up.
not like, you know, I'm going to get Stephen Fry to tell you how to use Little Big Planet or whatever.
Yeah.
That is like, look guys, I made this.
This is
Here
how you
I
do
am.
it.
I'm in 3D. This is what you do.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great.
That
and
is-
very bold.
That is a power move though, isn't it? That's sort of dick on the table time. if I may say.
Well, there's this part in it where he's talking about, because the way that your health works in Fahrenheit is like your mental health.
Okay.
So you have a
David Gage.
you have a David Gage that kind of has where your mood is. So you can be happy, okay, depressed, and then if it
And
gets
then Cage.
and if it gets to maximum Cage level, you commit suicide.
Oh God.
You actually
I'm
commit.
I'm in no way laughing about mental health or suicide, by the way.
No,
just
no.
the concept of a David Gage.
So
If you go
It
full
is a David
David,
Gage.
you commit suicide.
yeah, you can
That's
do crazy
brutal.
stuff like take pills and yeah, it's bad. But I never got that far because I
You're
never
so
got
good
that
at
far
it.
actually. I never did.
But is that just an indicator of progress or like health?
Health. That's your health bar.
Okay, so when you say you never got that far, you mean you never
What I mean is I never got.
reduced the bar? kind of?
Yeah, I never got so far up the Cage gauge that I was at the top
Yeah.
and had effectively died. It would be game over.
Yeah.
But in this case, the characters take their own lives, or if you play the police officer, she resigns. Like it's like a game over.
Really
state.
interesting.
It's really good.
So tell me about. So you are someone. Are you one of the random members of public, or are you an investigator? Who are you playing as?
So the game does not start slow.
Okay.
So the first part of the game, you murder somebody in the toilets of a New York diner.
But you don't mean to, kind of thing. Is that the?
So you have no control. You have to do it. To progress with the game, you have to do it. And that's very pertinent to the fact of what comes later.
Okay.
That it wasn't you that did it. You are being possessed by this oracle force thing.
Kind of like a Constantine kind of
Yeah.
vibe.
And so you keep seeing like all these flashes of like rituals and things.
Yeah.
So the game starts off straight away like that. You murder someone in the toilets and you have to like mop up, hide the body, get rid of the crime scene.
I was just thinking, what? So you're also working there?
Yeah.
You're a janitor? Done a murder, but I've also got to sort these toilets
I've really
out.
got to work. Really got work to do. So then you can switch between. There's 3 characters. Mm-hmm. There's Lucas Kane, who is the main guy.
So close.
2.
Cage.
Lucas Cage.
Yeah.
He's the main guy. He's the hero. Mm-hmm. He's the murderer. You have Carla Valenti, who is the police officer who's investigating it. So as soon as you've murdered someone, she goes in and she's like, let's find all the clues.
Right.
And then she has her partner called Tyler Miles.
So do you switch between these roles throughout the game?
There comes to points in the games where you can then choose which character you want to play as.
Okay.
The way that I remember it is that you kind of always end up playing all of them, but you can choose in which order things play out.
Oh, I see.
Now, in my notes next to Tyler Miles, I've got weird theme tune.
Okay.
Because the music is by Angelo Badalamenti of Twin Peaks fame. So he worked.
Okay.
Yeah, so he worked with David Lynch on Twin Peaks, but also like his films like Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet, amongst others.
Just a fun fact for you. I spent an embarrassing amount of time thinking that Mulholland Drive was Mulholland Doctor.
Okay.
Because on the title it just said DR. I was like, oh, that's an interesting name for a film. Then I realised that's what Americans drive with.
It's a good film.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I've not.
It's dead good. So I've put Angelo, he's now 82 years old, and his Twitter handle is Damn Good Pie, which I really like. So this is the theme tune of Fahrenheit as done by the good man and personally legend Angelo.
Moody.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then this guy who comes in.
So that was the theme for who? Was that just the main theme?
Yes, so that was the main theme by Angelo.
Yeah.
And then Tyler Miles, who comes in, he's Carla's partner.
Okay.
He comes waltzing into the crime scene and this music plays.
I was going to guess pretty much exactly that.
It's so weird.
Did he come to fix the refrigerator by any chance?
It was so weird. And it's just... And, you know, I'm sure it was done for good reasons, but sometimes
70s porn cliches don't make for a great moody drama.
It just clicks me out of the crime-solving immersion.
Yeah, it would do. Good Lord.
So that was good old Tyler. So, in terms of the story, in my notes it says, it's bananas, but great. So, you're this guy.
Yeah.
You go murder somebody.
True.
You're like, I don't think it was me.
True.
Poor Lucas is having a bad time. His girlfriend's just split up with him.
On account of the murder.
No, this was before.
Right. Nightmare.
He's not really enjoying his job.
What does he do for work?
He works as an IT person, I think.
Okay.
Like, it seems like a good job. He says what he has. He's like, oh, I'm the head of IT for so many banks. Like, he seems like he has a good job.
Right.
But he's just not really enjoying it.
But not fulfilled.
He's
Secretly,
not fulfilled.
he's a creative.
He's not fulfilled. He's, and he's just murdered someone. He's feeling a bit shit about
That's
that.
going to put you off, isn't it?
Yeah, the police are after him.
Oh.
So then...
So he murders and then leaves being like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
I just murdered this guy. And then cut to the next scene.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it cuts to Carla and she's like, we need to investigate this up. Carla is... So, the mocap, voice acting... The voice acting is phenomenal, I think, personally.
Okay.
I enjoy it. I think it's held up well.
Okay. And does it have a particular cast, or is this just good voice actors?
Good voice actors. Mm-hmm. I didn't check out the backgrounds of the voice actors in this case, which...
You can't do everything.
Which is,
You're working at the limits of your powers, Liz.
But, yeah. So then you don't have a good relationship with your brother, but you're like, he's a priest, maybe he can help me.
Right, yeah.
So you go and meet him, and his brother's like, oh, this sounds supernatural, maybe you were possessed or whatever.
His brother's not called Lucas Abel by any chance, is he?
That would be brilliant. I forgot his name.
Oh.
I forgot his name.
Well,
Marcus,
they missed a trick.
Maybe?
Oh, there you go.
Brother's called Marcus or something. So then it just goes bananas.
Right. Does he kill anyone else? Or is it focused on the fact that it's happening everywhere?
I can't remember it happening everywhere. I remember there being like this old case that it happened, because the thing about it is it's like a ritual killing, because he stabs the person to death, but he stabs them in a way that severs each artery in their heart.
Oh. He draws like a pentagram or something on there.
Yeah, something like that. And then the murderer... that's the thing. The murderer does these weird symbols on their forearms and then kills themselves. That's meant to be the thing. So they murder someone. But he hasn't.
Right, and why?
And so there's these like... I think there's like an old Mayan cult that's after him.
Right.
And
Makes sense.
These people, I think they're called the Purple Clan, that are after him. Because they're like, why isn't this guy dead? Because the story is, like I said, bananas. Like I can't remember it tightly enough to help you see it making sense.
Yeah. That's all right. I mean, people should go back and play it, right?
I know it's such a good game, but like so the whole thing of it is that there's this indigo child, this prophecy that these clans are trying to find, and the ritual killings are leading them to the child. And if they get hold of the child, then it's going to plunge the world into an eternal winter, and everyone's going to die.
This sounds a lot like there's a movie called The Believers.
I've never heard of this movie.
No, I hadn't until last year, when a guy who's in the film industry pointed it out. It's with Martin Sheen, and it's like I think it's 1978. It's some very early horror, but it's like all about this guy who's got a little son, and his wife dies at the start through this weird kind of like, she gets electrocuted by dropping milk and then touching a socket. It's all really fucked up. It's great, like amazingly well shot. And then it's all about this tribe that possesses his son, or tries to, and has also possessed like members of like high society and people who he works with and all this stuff. It's really, really great movie.
What's this called?
The Believers.
I need to watch this.
Yeah, you'd really love it. This
sounds like my cup of tea.
On brand. Sorry, please continue.
So you have to try and convince Carla
that you didn't mean to. Right. How do you do that?
Well, she falls in love with you.
Oh, that'll do.
Yeah, that'd do it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of crazy stuff in it. So the mechanics then, I should say. The mechanics work super well because they're kind of like... If you play something like Detroit or Heavy Rain... Yeah,
the detective-based...
Yeah, it's like unintrusive and just very fluid. So you would go in and you could open a door and it'd be like moving the left thumbstick upwards. You can like interact with everything as well. You can like open windows, open your fridge, make your bed. Yeah, the manual's not in there.
No, and there's there's a PlayStation, there's a copy of PS2 game The Thing.
Yeah, I tried to play that again recently.
Absolutely dedicated to never having the correct game in the box.
I tried to play it again recently, and do you know what? I can't remember any of it.
Do you remember the film?
It's like my favourite film.
Okay, sorry.
That's a silly question. You knew the answer to that. You just wanted to push my buttons. But the mechanics tie into what you find out yourself in the game. So, for example, there's a bit where you have the body of the crime scene, and the doctor is speaking to you in all like medical jargon, and Carla, the investigator's like, I did like medical year, whatever. If you like slow down.
Actually, I did a GCSE in
biology.
biology.
I can get it.
Yeah.
And then you do a quick time event while he's talking. This is my quick time. I'm just wiggling my fingers. That's my quick time event.
Yeah.
And if you get it right, in her head, she's like, oh, that means that he was stabbed here.
So this is basically a mansplaining simulator. Where she's just like, I know what you're talking about. Press X to say, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
It works both ways.
Right.
Carla's a very strong, well-crafted character, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's dead good.
Sounds dead good. I would like to play it now.
I think you would enjoy it very much. So, like I said, you can do absolutely everything, and that includes having sex.
Okay.
But that's why it was called the Indigo Prophecy.
Okay.
Partly because... so the title of Fahrenheit was changed to Indigo Prophecy in North America. The change was made to avoid confusion with the film Fahrenheit 9/11 that was released the year before.
True.
But also, they had to drop the rating of the game from adults only to mature because
ESRB?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Those ratings. Wrote it down. Yes, games rated adults only by the Entertainment Software Ratings Board cannot be released on consoles, and this is usually to do with graphic, sexual imagery, or nudity.
So they didn't cut the sex scene? Or?
They did for North America, and it came under the Indigo Prophecy.
When you said came under, what do you mean? Nothing.
So that meant that...
So, I mean, presumably that didn't really make a huge difference in the story, or...?
Well, it did.
Okay.
So there was one part... You can have sex twice. One is interactive, and it's really awkward.
You're talking about in the game? Or? Just advice for life.
This is just life. You have sex twice.
One of them's going to be interactive.
She's like, spend it wisely.
Thanks, Jeannie.
So that one, the interactive optional one, was removed. So that's when, a little bit of a spoiler, your ex-girlfriend comes to pick stuff up, and if you woo her with your guitar playing, she goes, take me to the bedroom, Lucas. And then you can awkwardly smash polygons together. But also, there is one sex scene which is relevant to the story.
Okay.
And so that was kept in there, but they changed the camera angles so that you never see any breasts.
Oh, okay.
And they removed the nipples as well, apparently.
Right, just in case.
Just in case you got a cheeky
got
glimpse.
a render, yeah.
Yeah. In my notes it says play guitar and it leads to it. Just like real life.
Just like real life.
This game was my first foray into...
Murder.
And
this is how you're going to admit it.
How to clean up a murder scene and hide the body.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. So, before, a lot of games I'd played, and like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed them very much. If you're in a bit of a squeeze, you just get your gun out, spray some bullets.
Well, this is what I mean. I'm looking at the back of the box, and I'm thinking of Max Payne. Because it was
great.
very similar aesthetic, but Max Payne is like goes comic book and action game. So it's almost like, old David Cage looked at Max Payne and went, I can do that better and I can make it really interesting.
The thing is, it gives the premise of that, and for the first 15 minutes of the game, it is, but then it goes like a bit X-Men.
Oh.
Because, again, I don't want to spoil the story because you want to play it, and it's a great game and everyone should play it, but it becomes supernatural.
Right. And you don't mean very, very natural. You mean very supernatural.
Very supernatural.
Got it.
So, like, it very quickly becomes a bit like X-Men. You can, like, read people's minds. You can push them away with your mind.
You can create a little ball of ice in your palm.
If you like.
You can put on a costume.
You can read a book upside down or paint it blue.
Yeah.
Do what you want. Sure will.
There's our deep knowledge of the X-Men universe has, I think, been exposed, Liz.
The thing is,
What's the thing?
It is one of my favourite games. And there's many reasons that I like it and think it's brilliant and it should be played. But there's so much to it.
Right. You find it hard to summarise?
Yeah, there's so much intricacies in the storyline. There's so much depth in the characters. It's, like I was saying earlier, it was the first game that I'd played where you have a situation where you're in peril, but you don't just like get your gun out and start shooting around.
Right.
You either have to like talk your way out of it, or there's an action sequence out of it, or you have to like slink away out of it.
Is there any skidding on your knees out of it?
I wish.
And I wept.
Well, that's great. Every game should have a mechanic in which you skid on your knees.
I think out of anything, this would be the example where that might not work. Tetris, similar probably.
Skidding on your knees. And the thing is as well, is when I went back to playing it, if you play if you play Detroit, for example, it's very similar setup where you have contained environments that are very heavily detailed and you can interact with them. And they feel very organic and real. Yeah. And I think a lot can be said to like the sound design of Fahrenheit, in that even though this game is like from 2005, it still really feels like the environment is rich and full and vibrant and alive. Yeah. And I'd not played a game like that up until that point. Mm-hmm. And also the fact that it does like explore a lot of like touchy subjects like intimacy and depression and like dealing with guilt and grief and like
things that aren't particularly explored in video games.
Yeah, and I think it just did it very well. And I just have very fond memories of it. And like I said, I started playing it. I'm about an hour in, and I will continue playing. There's some really crazy ass bits as well. Like there's a bit where you're in the office just doing your thing for the bank, and then you see some dust mites, like green hologram dust mites that start chasing you around the office and strangling you. And
is that your false feedback?
No!
Damn it!
And you have to do like a quick time events to get out of their grips. And then there's like other times where you'll just be like walking down the street and it's dark. And just like aliens will beam you up.
What?
And you're like, what?
Okay, this isn't quite the game that I'm imagining it to be then.
And it's all like his views from the Oracle that's like controlling him. That's when she's having influence that you start seeing banana stuff.
Right.
So yeah, what can I say? So I said, why do I like it? I like the music, apart from Tyler's weird theme tune. Yeah, it's strange. The tone and the feel and the richness of the world. The controls, very simple and obstructing. So even the camera works really nice in this. Okay. The camera is, usually if I play new games and then go back to old ones, it's usually the camera that's my big bugbear. Yeah. But the camera in this works really well because it's just, you can move it with the analog, but then you can just press the shoulder buttons to change the shot of the camera.
Wasn't Beyond Two Souls quite influential for its camera?
I should play it. I can't believe it's the only one I haven't played. And it's supernatural as well, which is my jam. Yeah. I should go back and play that one. And just the story is really cool. Out of all the Quantic Dream games I've played, I think it's my favourite story.
Okay. I'm kind of chuckling in my head because of the game that I've got to put it up against, but we'll get to that.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've missed.
Well, I'm sure the listener will point out anything that you might have missed.
That is very true.
And I've been totally unable to guess your falsehood.
It was the alien bit.
It was the alien bit?
Yeah. The alien. Oh, hey, there's no aliens in it.
The dust mites.
The dust mites are real.
I took that.
The dust mites are real.
But I was just like, UFOs, fine. Why didn't I pounce on that one?
I was looking forward to doing Fahrenheit because there's so much banana stuff in it that I was like...
Yeah, it's easy to...
It's easy to throw a clanger in there.
Alrighty.
Yeah, did you enjoy that?
I did enjoy that.
Do you want to borrow it after I finished it?
Well, I don't have a PlayStation 2, so I'd have to borrow both.
You can borrow my PlayStation 2.
I would have to. Yeah, quite possibly. I'm into narrative-driven stuff.
It's blooming marvellous. You can borrow Detroit. Maybe do Detroit first.
Yeah.
What you got?
Speaking of narrative-driven games...
Really? We're really good at syncing
up. Not really.
Oh.
Not really. I have got 1987's The Three Stooges.
I've never even heard of that.
A Cinemaware production. The Three Stooges.
What?
Can three Stooges, 3 in caps, save 1 orphanage from foreclosure. See what they did?
No.
They're doing the numbers. 3, 1, foreclosure.
But they've missed out 2.
Yep, it's fine. It's just a shit joke. So
this isn't real. Is this just
a real
your
game.
false feedback?
No, yeah, the whole
the
game.
whole thing.
It's made up. No, so I'm showing Liz the copy of this that I've got on Game Boy Advance, but I actually had this around the time it came out in 1987. I probably didn't have it then because I was like 4 years old or something. But I had it in like the early 90s on my PC when I were young, and we had our first ever computer. And back then, you went to the game shop and you didn't really know what you were doing, and especially PC games, like there weren't really established things like with consoles you had your Marios, your Sonics and all of that. But I didn't really have any idea what games were. And I don't know if I chose this game or whether it came with the PC or what it was, but somehow we ended up with a copy of the Three Stooges.
Who are the Three Stooges?
Now, are you familiar with the Three Stooges?
No.
They are
I don't recognise
a
them.
trio of guys. You won't because it's so old.
Is he from My Family, the one in the middle?
No. Wait.
Sorry.
They are so old that it's from vaudeville. So like 1920s stage acts. They went from... I've got some facts in here. So they are a trio of guys who went from... Yeah, so from being a vaudeville act from the 30s to the 50s, they made 220 short films. And yeah, there's a fun fact. They were kept in the dark about their popularity and never got a single pay rise. But yeah, they just basically, they were like slapstick.
Okay.
Just 3 guys who were meant to be like doing odd jobs, wandering around New York and getting into scrapes. And they just made all sorts of like weird short films where they had a different job. So you know how like there's comedies nowadays or like where you have like duos or trios of people who are like, oh, in this episode, like kids' TV shows like Chucklevision and stuff like that. Oh, we've got a different job this time.
Yeah.
It's all from like the Three Stooges
Okay.
doing those things. So it's Moe, Curly and Larry.
Mo looks like Anthony Kiedis.
Yeah. He definitely didn't at the time. But yeah, so they're just these sort of 3 awkward looking, sort of stocky dudes who you'd expect to be sort of sat on a building site. And they were famous for sort of slapping and poking each other in the eye and, doing dumb slapstick stuff to each other and hurting each other.
Is Curly his real first name?
Maybe.
Curly Hogan.
It's not related. So Mo has got like a mop hair, Curly is shaved head, and so that's the joke. And then Larry is just this guy with big crazy hair. So why on earth? And I still don't really get this. Why on earth did they make a video game of something that at most recent was from the 50s?
Do you think their souls are trapped in there? It's like Jumanji.
It could be like Jumanji. No, there's no time travel involved in the Three Stooges. But this game got ported to like everything, which is really weird. It's by this company called Cinemaware. And I looked into it. So Cinemaware is a guy and his wife, Bob and Phyllis Jacobs.
Phyllis, great name.
They wanted to make interactive movies, and they started with this game called Defender of the Crown, which was this like super high detailed pixel game where you were defending a castle and you could do all of this stuff. And it was famous because it was so detailed, and it was on PC. And it was by this graphic artist, Jim Davis. Who then just did all this amazing artwork. And then went on to then work on more of their games. And so the first thing that's quite striking about the PC version of it is that it's incredibly detailed. So lots of like bits of their films and stuff, they're sort of like pixel recreations.
Really?
So the levels and the things that you do, which I'll explain in a minute, are cartoony, but then there's bits of them that are like just pixel recreations of like, stills of film or like frames of a film to make an animation.
That's pretty cool.
So it was pretty cool, and it was a really interesting like first video game to have. It was the first video game that I owned, pretty much.
Wow.
Which is why I brought it in. Another reason that I'm nostalgic about it. So the game, basically they wanted to make what they called an interactive movie, and they started out by drawing out a board game.
Yep.
So imagine like a snaking set of tiles that you'd move and do different things.
Yep.
And the conceit is that the three heroes are walking past an orphanage, and there's a banker there being like, oh, you'll never save the orphanage, blah, blah, blah. You need money to save the orphanage. And of course, the Three Stooges rock up. They see Mama, who owns the orphanage, and they're like, what's the matter, lady? You know, what's the problem? And she's like, oh, we need the money to save the orphanage, and it's all fucked. And they're like, yeah, we'll fix it. And so they walk off, and then you're straight into like the board game. So what you see on screen is the three dudes at the bottom, sort of like side on, and then like 5 pieces of a board at the top.
Yeah.
And you have a hand that's like moving around at a certain speed, jumping onto each tile, and you have to press a button, like spacebar or whatever, to choose one tile. And they're basically a set of mini games or things of chance which lead to you raising a certain amount of money each day.
Okay.
And so by the end of like 30 days or whatever, which is when the bank's going to foreclose on the orphanage, you have to raise a certain amount of money. And some of the tiles on the board are mouse traps.
Okay.
And so if you land on them when you press space by accident, you lose a finger on the hand. And then the finger disappears, and then you're going along. And if you hit all the mouse traps, you go back to the orphanage. You're like, sorry, we've got this much. And then the banker's like, not enough money. Orphanage is screwed.
That's really sad.
Blah, blah, blah. So I made some notes on the mini games because they're interesting. Now, remember we were talking last episode about adaptations, and you're like, did that happen in that show or movie? Like, how did this become a game? Or is it just something that a game designer had to make up?
Yeah.
And I looked up some of the Stooge films. They were like short, obviously black and white films that these were based on. And I'd never done that before because obviously when I was a kid, you didn't have the internet to look things up. And now I'm like, oh, I kind of see how that relates, but it doesn't really still make any fucking sense. So some of them were just like dollar symbols, and when you landed on those, the guys would just walk into the street and be like, "Oh, cool, money!" And you'd be like, "Oh, it's
like
$200," and it's kind of like early loot boxes, I guess you could say. And then some of them were quizzes, and the beauty of the quiz is, of course, that I A was a child and B in the 90s. So I had no fucking idea about trivia related to the Three Stooges, an act who had finished making films in 1950s.
Are you an expert now, though, from doing the quizzes?
I do know a little bit of Stooges trivia as a result of having played that game as a child. But yeah, it was just ridiculous because you're like, I have no idea what, Moe's real name is or something. But yeah, so some of the other mini games were like, were basically jobs that they had to do to raise money on that day. The first one is boxing.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, cool. Boxing. Brilliant. I've seen my mate had the NES at the time. He had Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I'm thinking, great. Finally, I'll have a video game also for punching things because I'm a, violent, repressed child. But unfortunately, it was based on one of their films called Punch Drunks, in which Curly, the stockier of them, is entered into a prize fight, and he goes nuts when he hears the song Pop Goes the Weasel. And so in the film, one of them's like, oh, I'm going to play that song on his Stradivarius, which of course was the instrument of the time, the little violin. And he accidentally sits down on it as soon as the boxing match starts. So the film is him running through New York trying to find a way to play the same song. And he eventually finds this radio truck and drives it back and plays it, crashes into the boxing ring, and he hears the song and he beats the guy. Great. But unfortunately, in the video game, you can't really recreate that.
No.
But they do this bizarre split screen thing, which is basically the bottom half of the screen is an endless runner. So at the top half of the screen, you see him in the boxing match getting beat by this guy and a bell in the corner. And then the bottom half, you're basically changing between two lanes, running left to right, all the way to the end of the street, avoiding sleeping dogs, piles of cement, and telegraph poles and things. And you get to the end of the street and you pick up a radio and it starts playing the song. And then you just leg it all the way back and avoid stuff. And if you get there in time, you place the radio there and then he beats the guy and you get like a certain amount for the prize fight.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Which is just like, it's it was like initially like, oh great, boxing. Oh fuck, this isn't a boxing game at all. And then it was like, actually this is kind of a fun, well-made
adaptation of
like,
the film.
Adaptation of the film, which I had no idea about until yesterday, being an adult.
And now you're like, oh,
but I was just like, I was an
makes
endless
sense.
runner. Yeah, so that was fun. So that's boxing. Oh, I forgot to say. So you remember I mentioned the Defender of the Crown thing was their previous game. The game starts out by bringing up that title.
Okay.
And then the Stooges walk on and they're like, oh, we're in the wrong game, you knuckleheads. And then they walk off. I was like, oh, that's quite cute. But I genuinely thought I was fooled by it the first time. I was like, oh, they're giving me the wrong disc or something. So well played. So the other jobs are hospital, slap fight, crackers.
The slap fight's on the back and it's got a slapometer.
Waiters, yeah. So I'm going to tell you about hospital. So the thing I like about this one is that at the start of each of these jobs, there's like them, like first person view holding a bit of paper with like the job description. And the job says, surgical team, brackets, 3 doctors, pay $25 for every second spent in the operating theatre. And also you can earn $10 to $30 for misplaced items. And
What's that mean? Like leaving things inside the person?
Well, this is it. I'm glad you said that, Liz, because I was thinking, surgical team. I bet this mini game is going to be like Operation or something, and you can just grab stuff. You'd be wrong. It's actually a karting game.
What?
So you are a team of 3 doctors who, as you know, doctors often ride around the halls on little carts.
How else would you get around?
Top-down view, and you're basically avoiding people being wheeled around in wheelchairs and on beds, and clumsy doctors are dropping their stethoscopes and first aid kits and things, and you're picking them up. And it was cool because you control the first car and the other 2 cars follow exactly what you do, like a frame later or something. Okay. So it's kind of like snaking side to side, kind of like if you ever played Cannon Fodder, how the other characters would follow you. But yeah, and then basically you just had to drive really fast to get to the end, get to the operating theatre, and the amount of seconds left in the clock were how long you spent and how much you earned.
Ah, okay.
So it was just like another, like all of the mini games are kind of a bit of a fake out where you're like, okay, I think it's going to be this. Nope, totally different. And that again was based on one of their films where they're riding a bike through a hospital, but it's one of those tandem like bikes except for 3 people.
Brilliant.
It's an extra long tandem. And then the other ones, I'm just going to go through them quickly. So like crackers, there's a cracker eating contest. I don't know what. The thing is, this game is so old that I didn't even understand the food of the time. You basically have first-person view of your arm and a bowl of milk and what look like little circular biscuits or crackers of some kind. And you're basically controlling the spoon and then you're picking them up. But there is, in this, a rogue oyster, which has gone in the bowl.
Feedback.
And it's eating, and you have to stop the oyster from getting them, and then the oyster squirts you in the face.
This is false feedback.
You are wrong, Liz. This is a true story.
This is real.
This is really what happens in the game.
Holy moly. Don't even know what an oyster looks like.
Well, it's just a little clam thing. Little burp.
Cheeky oyster.
So yeah, so he comes and steals them, and you paid for however many you eat or something. You're winning the contest. And then the other one, which is probably my favourite, slap fight's kind of rubbish because it's just your timing, poking them in the eye or like blocking or something.
I
or
can
kicking.
see on the back of the box that the slap contest's on there.
But the best one is probably waiters. And the job description says serve pies to guests, and you get a certain amount of money for serving pies. So I'm thinking, okay, we've got to juggle the tables, walk around maybe. No, it is a food fight.
Nice.
You are on each side. I think that's on the back of the box too.
Is it this one at the top?
At the top.
Serve pies to the upper
you're in
crust.
you're in this like very upper class looking banquet hall, and on each side there's 3 of you and then 3 posh dressed people.
Okay.
And they're popping up and down, and when they pop up they throw something at you, and you have to control which one of your guys to duck to miss it, but then because they're standing up you have to throw back because they'll get hit if they're still stood up as well. So it's all this crazy timing game where you have to swap and throw pies. It's really well made, like, and really like for a set of mechanics in 1987 it's really interesting. You know, like they've got all the like the arcing of the things, and like it's just well made, well animated.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's a very surprising game in what you actually do in it.
It sounds like lots of fun, actually.
Yeah, and then basically you have to earn, like I said, enough money to save the orphanage. And if you do that within the time, you go back to the orphanage and you're like, it's weird because you turn up and the orphanage is all fixed up. And Mum is just like, thank you, boys, you saved the orphanage. Aww. And it's all fixed up and the kids who are looking sad are looking a little bit happier.
Oh, that's
And they're all sort of hanging out of the orphanage. But the thing that I found very weird is that if you raise over a certain amount of money, you get to marry her 3 lovely daughters.
Yeah, I was just reading that on the back.
And there's a sequence just at the end with just the 3 guys with like wedding suits and top hats and the lovely daughters behind them. You're like, okay, that's weird. It's a strange random arranged marriage thanks to saving the orphanage.
Isn't that how marriage works in real life? You have to save an orphanage to get married.
That's how I met my wife, yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I like how the rating on the back of the box is for everyone.
Yeah.
It says for everyone with comic mischief.
Yeah, as
really
if you've got
like
like, we have to put some warning into the box. It's comic mischief. It's like when they list mild peril. It's one of my favourites.
Mild peril. So did Cinemaware go on to make anything after this?
Not that I could find that was in any way well known. They were just titles that I hadn't heard of. But I think their dream was to just be like, oh, we'll do this. But they ported that so many things. I mean, you're holding in your hands a GBA copy, which would have been like the year 2000 or something. It was on PlayStation 1. It was on just a random bunch of things. I don't know why they kept getting funding to port this thing, but I guess there was a certain area of interest in the Hollywood career of the Three Stooges.
Do you know how well it sold?
I don't. But I mean, it's ported so many times, you got to assume that it's been quite popular. I hadn't looked at the manual actually, now I think of it. So the console ports, except for PS1 looks great, but the other console ports look kind of crap. Like it was on NES and on Game Boy is fairly similar to the NES version, and it just doesn't look good. And they've put in random Comic Sans, which obviously makes it much worse.
Oh yeah. The nasty banker is called I Fleece 'em.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's the other thing with the Stooges. They're a fan of the pun. So yeah.
You are absolutely right about the cracker eating
there
contest.
you go. And there's a cheeky oyster in there.
That's just mad.
So look out for him. Not a lie. So I loved it because it was formative. It had really interesting mini games, and yeah, it was my first game, and it had like a bunch of games in it. So it's kind of getting a lot of value and quite an interesting introduction into what video games were at the same time. So that's that.
It doesn't take long before Larry and Curly do some numbskull thing that gets on Moe's nerves, and he has to stop and slap some sense into them.
Yeah.
You can control Moe as he slaps, pokes, punches and kicks Curly and Larry.
Yeah, quite a violent game, even though the only risk is comic mischief.
Oh, here's the trivia thing.
Okay. Yeah, the trivia I had... you basically learnt by playing the game a lot, like, what the actual answers were. Like when you've got a really simple kids board game, you're like, oh, I know what these are, but you wouldn't know otherwise. But yeah, it was cool, and I enjoyed it. But Liz, I want to know what Talk to Transformer thinks of Fahrenheit and the Three Stooges.
I want to know what your false feedback was for that game.
My false feedback, which you missed, I said that Cinemaware started out by making Defender of the Crown, and it had amazing pixel artwork by a guy called Jim Davis.
Yeah.
Jim Davis is the artist of Garfield. Didn't make amazing pixel artwork. It was actually a guy called Jim Sachs. I just threw in a very subtle lie for
That was
you,
a very
for you
subtle
this time.
lie.
Yeah, I'll go a bit more obvious next time.
I'll get more subtle with my lies.
So,
I'll be a good liar by the end of this podcast.
So if you're not familiar, every episode we talk to Transformer. So that means we go to talktotransformer.com. This is a website that uses some kind of AI shenanigans to spin a yarn from something that we put in. So we just put in the name of the game and is.
Oh wait, I think I spelled Fahrenheit wrong.
No, you got it right. It just doesn't know it. So do you want to put Fahrenheit or do you want to put Indigo Prophecy? Or are you going to put both?
I'm going to put both.
Okay.
I'm going to say Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy is.
Okay, hit that button. So you hit a complete text button and it spins out a story, and then Liz is going to read you a lovely story. And it looks like it's quite an interesting story. So let's see how it goes.
Oh, it's got a cliffhanger as well. It ends
Nice.
on a cliffhanger.
Tell me a story, Liz.
Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy is that these people were made to look like the people that have been living under since the beginning.
Okay.
I don't know what they're living under, but they're under something. The only thing that matters in the end is survival. As they say here, as one dies, the next one grows up.
That's true enough.
Thus, they cannot think or move in an orderly way or act like the people that they're supposed to follow. The final outcome of this prophecy is that all humans will either be enslaved or exterminated on Earth.
Good God.
At some point in the last few hundred years, Earth is going to end up in ashes.
I mean, that's inevitable.
There are lots of reasons why. The first is obvious. As soon as it's confirmed.
Will it be confirmed by this story?
The reason everyone knew it was coming for a million years before the world was on a planet like Earth is because all the major civilizations, including the other civilizations that started up after the end of the world, had been wiped out. Also, the other planet was basically covered by one of those big planets that were in the centre of the solar system, the Sun, and it was much closer than the other planets in the solar system. The Sun is the only thing for all those civilizations to exist, except... And then it ends. So we don't know.
Cliffhanger. Good Lord. Okay, my turn. Okay, well, that was Talk to Transformer with a fascinating story.
Prophecy for the end of the world.
Yeah, very, very
So
dark.
the sun, everything apart from the sun except. So he didn't tell us what we need to save the world.
No.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Maybe a scientist somewhere who's listening to this can decipher it and be like, oh, that's what we need. Talk to Transformer solved
Or
it.
maybe at Adam Daniel King on Twitter, who made Talk to Transformer, can put a little bit more work in so it actually finishes its stories. Okay, so I have put in the Three Stooges is, and I've hit generate, and it tells me the Three Stooges is what sets the stage for this game and sets in motion what is to be found in the game. When the players do the wrong things, they do not get the benefit of our help and the game ends. The solution is that we have to be careful about the people and the things they come to know or trust. The players need to know someone, ask them to go deeper. Not just the things they knew when they were kids. At every chance they get, the players need to get back to the root of things. And after they've taken deep, deep breaths and are tired of seeing what they know nothing about, they need to look at the future and let things that they know help them to do their job better. This is the spirit of the game in its most fundamental form, to give the players back to the root of things. This takes some understanding of why players play and why playing makes them who they are and helps them to do their job better. To be clear, players who are afraid to ask questions of others can do nothing but learn their jobs, in inverted commas, by going through the process of what does one...
And then it ends.
That is the end, yeah.
There's not a more section.
So it's like a very existential...
Yeah, it got very real very quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
So the world's going to end and we all need to do our jobs better.
Yeah, but we also need to ask those who... Yeah.
Oh, no.
So thanks for that, Talk to Transformer.
Transformer.
Another classic ending.
So, Fahrenheit, Three Stooges. Which one is the best game?
I think I know, and it's not mine. I'm just going to bias it. You can tell us what you think is the best game by looking for @FierceFeedback on Twitter. We will put up a poll with this episode, and you can give us a little cheeky vote on there. And you can also write back to us on there, or you can email fiercefeedback@gmail.com and tell us your memories of these games. I don't know. I've never met anyone else except for my sister who has played the Three Stooges video game. But I'm sure there's a lot of people who have things to say about Fahrenheit. So
yes,
we'll see.
And a lot of things that I've probably got wrong or misinterpreted.
Yeah.
Such as the way of Fahrenheit.
What do you mean the way of Fahrenheit?
Well, there's a lot to it, you know. I think it can probably be interpreted in different ways.
I thought you were
one of the best things
saying
is,
the way of the fist.
One of the best
the way
things
of Fahrenheit
is that I was playing through again and was like, what are those dust mites that he sees in the office? What do they mean?
What does do?
What does do? So I Googled it, and there was this forum post that says, what were the bugs that Lucas sees in Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy? And this was posted 4 years ago. And the only response is the same person who's replied to himself and put, because I don't know. So nobody
Just to clarify,
knows.
I probably haven't got an answer to this question because I haven't clarified why I'm asking it. Because I don't know.
Because I don't know. So
you weren't able to
don't
find
know.
this out at all?
No.
So if you know what the dust mites are, perhaps your name is David Gage.
Maybe he
I never
knows.
had to read out any names, by the way, in the end.
Oh yes, my apologies. That's because
No,
I missed off
I'm not particularly...
the co-CEO who was the
There we
where's
go.
his name on? That's the wrong notes for the wrong game. The producer Guillaume
Guillaume de Fondomier.
and he's now co-CEO with Cage.
Oh,
That was the name.
well done, G,
Yeah.
my French namesake.
So there we go. A bit of Three Stooges and a bit of Fahrenheit.
Nice.
Thanks, Will. That was dead good.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you for listening. We will
Yes.
see you next time.
Woo! Bye.
Oh, goodbye.